Miss Lucille Ball got a little time. Me Lucille Ball made everyone laugh, but her own life was full of drama, heartbreak, and secrets. From her early struggles in Jamestown to the heights of her Hollywood fame, she captivated millions, but there were whispers of a story that had been kept secret. Now, decades later, her family is telling what they've been hiding. There are new stories about this comedy figure that make us question everything we thought we knew about her. If you watch the famous show I Love Lucy, you know Lucille Ball is the star who changed the face of comedy. She was born on August 6, 1911, in Jamestown, New York. Glamorous, but her childhood was hard and full of loss. Her father, Henry Durl Ball, was an electrician and moved the family to Montana and then Michigan in search of work. But in February 1915, Henry died of typhoid fever, leaving young Lucille without a father at the age of 3. This loss had a big impact on her life, and her mother, Desiree, was deeply sad. Desiree, who was pregnant with Lucille's brother Fred, went back to Jamestown to get help. She got a job in a factory and finally married a man named Ed Peterson. However, Ed didn't want to have children, which made Desiree's decision hard. She moved to Detroit with Ed, leaving Lucille and Fred behind. Fred stayed with Desiree's parents, while Lucille was sent to live with Ed's family, who she barely knew. This separation put Lucille in a strict home where love and comfort were hard to find. The family had money problems, and Lucille often didn't have basic school supplies. When she thought back on those years, she remembered a childhood full of loss and hardship. There were times of joy. When Lucille was 11, her life changed when her mother and Ed moved back to Jamestown and reunited with Desiree. She found some stability. Around this time, Lucille also found something that would change her future. Her love of performing on stage gave her an escape from life's problems and sparked a dream that would one day light up the world. At only 12, Lucille dreamed of bringing magic into her everyday life. By 15 years old, she made the brave decision to drop out of high school and convince her mother to let her attend the John Murray Anderson School for Dramatic Arts in New York City. This was the start of Lucille's fearless journey. At the school, she shared classrooms with Betty Davis, who would go on to become a Hollywood star. Despite her love for the stage, Lucille often struggled to make her mark because she was too shy. Back then, she said, "I was a tongue-tied teenager spellbound by the school's star pupil B. Davis." The school staff didn't believe Lucille could succeed and even told her mother that she was too shy to do well. But Lucille wasn't ready to give up. She stayed in New York and changed her name to Diane Belmont in the hopes that it would help her. She became a model and worked for famous designer Hattie Carnegie during this time, beating a painful case of rheumatoid arthritis. Later, she got a job promoting Chesterfield cigarettes. Even though Lucille had failures, she never gave up. Over time, her confidence grew, and the shyness that had been holding her back began to go away. She got her first break in Hollywood with small roles, such as an extra part in the Marx Brothers' Musketeers, and she was in the 1937 movie Stage Door with Katharine Hepburn and Ginger Rogers. Most people probably didn't think of those movies as movies, which is why Lucille was called the Queen of B-movies for her many roles in low-budget movies. During her career, she was in 72 movies, many of which were from this early period. By the 1940s, she had started to make more mainstream movies. She got bigger parts in more famous movies and TV shows, but her life really changed when a Cuban man came into it and helped her career go to the next level. Dizzy Arnaz, a lively Cuban band leader, met Lucille in the movie Dance Girl Dance, and the two became closer when they worked together on Too Many Girls. By the end of the year of their passionate relationship, Desi was unlike any other man Lucille had dated before. With his youthful charm and fiery personality, He was very different from the older men she had been with in the past. Des's reputation as a ladies' man made friends and co-workers wary of the relationship, and many thought it would not last. Were they right? Stay tuned to find out. As the late 1940s came and went, Lucille's career hit a plateau. She had dyed her hair red at MGM's suggestion in 1942, but she still couldn't get many movie parts as a leading lady. Seeing how frustrated she was pushed to look into. This led to her starring part in the radio comedy My Favorite Husband. The show was a hit, and CBS executives saw it as a possible TV show. However, Lucille had one demand: she insisted that her real-life husband star with her. At first, CBS refused, but Lucille was not deterred. Lucille backed out of the deal, and she and Desiree went on to make a vaudeville act based on what would become I Love Lucy. The act went on tour and quickly became a hit, and soon after, CBS changed their minds and offered them a contract. Lucille and Desi agreed, but only under certain terms. They refused to film the show in New York, where most productions were based. They also wanted to shoot on film instead of the cheaper kinescope format, which caused problems. CBS didn't like the cost, but the couple had a plan. They took a pay cut in exchange for full ownership rights to the show. This deal let them start their own production company, Deus Productions. Together, they built the foundation for what would become one of the most important shows on TV at the time. Lucille and Desi had no idea how big of an effect their risk would have, but history shows that they were right. We're about to change television forever on October 15, 1951, when I Love Lucy premiered. Produced by Delu Productions, the show won over viewers across America with its bold and innovative approach. Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, Vivian Vance, and William Frawley formed a team that would shape the future of sitcoms by tackling relatable themes. I Love Lucy really connected with both men and women through themes like marriage, working women, and life in the suburbs. One episode, Little Ricky, aired on January 19, 1953, and Lucy Ricardo Lucille Ball gave birth to Little Ricky. Interestingly, this episode aired the same day that Lucille's real-life son DZ Jr. was born via cesarean section, despite the show's name. Lucille was the clear star. She was incredibly dedicated to her job. There were times when she improvised her comedic lines because she had practiced them for hours, making sure that every move and expression was just right. Her hard work paid off, inspiring future comedy legends like Mary Tyler Moore, Penny Marshall, Ciel Shepherd, and Robin Williams. The show was a huge hit for 4 seasons. I Love Lucy was the #1 show in America, an amazing 67 times. 3 people share. The part where Ricky was born got a 71. More people watched Lucille's performance as Lucy Ricardo than President Eisenhower's inauguration. It wasn't just a part, it was iconic. Her comedic timing and charm set a standard for TV comedies that is still used today. Many people thought that CU Productions would go out of business after I Love Lucy ended in 1957, but the company not only survived, it thrived. It made hit shows like Our Miss Brooks's Make Room for Daddy, The Untouchables, and The Dick Van Dyke Show. It also made groundbreaking shows like Star Trek and Mission Impossible Deus. Lucille's vision and dedication. 4 years after its founding, De Solo Productions became the unlikely home for an ambitious idea: Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry pitched the idea to the studio. But Lucille Ball misunderstood the title. She reportedly thought it referred to a group of USO performers from World War II, but she saw potential in the project anyway. Author Mark Cushman in Inside Star Trek: The Real Story emphasized Ball's ability to quickly adapt and her resilience, which she said was due to her partnership with Desi Arnaz. Industry insiders called her crazy, but she always went against what people thought she would do. In the same way, Ball supported Roddenberry's idea of a space western even when board members didn't agree with it. Ball also backed the production of Star Trek's first pilot, even though it was expensive and difficult to make. After the first pilot failed, she supported the making of a second one. There were big financial risks, but Ball never lost faith in the show. Studio accountant Edwin Ed Hawley famously said, "If it weren't for Lucy, there would be no Star Trek under her leadership." DeSolo Productions became the biggest televised production company in the world. When Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz got divorced in 1960, they stayed friends and co-parented their children. 2 years later, Ball married comedian Gary Morton and took full ownership of DeSo Productions. This made her the first woman to run a major TV studio, which was another great achievement. Arnaz's affair and the complicated nature of their relationship are still being questioned. Ball knew Des's reputation for cheating while touring with his band, so he insisted he play her on-screen husband in I Love Lucy. It was a way to keep them together. Closer CBS did something brave by supporting the portrayal of a mixed marriage between a white woman and a Cuban man. There was a lot of talk about Arnaz's private life, and gossip magazines added to it. For example, in the January 1955 issue of Confidential magazine, author Brad Shortell wrote about Arnaz's alleged affairs, which made the news. In his story, Chell painted a scandalous picture of Desi Arnaz's private life. He said that Desi and a male relative once stayed at a Beverly Hills hotel bungalow and called a famous door-to-door dame service. 2 women were said to have arrived. One got sick, but the other, Mindy, waited until 2 a.m. to go to their room when the time was right, for once supposedly. He took Mindy to another bungalow and came back 20 minutes later, leaving Mindy to entertain a relative child. The story ended with a biting statement that said, "Desire most certainly loves Lucy, it's just that, like a lot of other husbands, he's got a little extra to go around." Despite their problems, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz had a very passionate marriage. Their daughter Lucy Arnaz found her mother's handwritten memoirs in 1993, which were later published as Love Lucy. The memoirs talked about their fiery relationship. Lucy once said, "Other kids' parents were stars, mine were the stars," she said. "Other kids' parents were stars, mine were the stars." Repeatedly called Lucille to show his love. But Desi's problems with drinking and cheating made their marriage difficult, and his drinking killed him in the end. In Season 3 of the Plot Thickens podcast by Turner Classic Movies, it was revealed that Lucille spoke to Desi. On the day he died, Desi told him over and over that she loved him. In his last moments, Desi also said the same thing. However, his autobiography confirmed that he had been unfaithful during their marriage and hinted that Lucille may have also been unfaithful. Despite the betrayal, Desi supported Lucille throughout their troubled relationship, but there's no denying his love for her. "My parents stayed good friends after they got divorced. It took time for them to heal, but they stayed close to the bitter end, which was good for us King kids." Lucille Ball had a huge impact on TV, and it wasn't just as an actress. As head of Jaslow Productions, she changed how shows were made and filmed, and she pushed for techniques like filming in front of a live studio crowd and using a 3-camera setup were common innovations that changed the way TV was made. In 1967, Ball sold Delaware Solo Productions to GF Plus Western for $17 million, which is about $131 million today. She kept starring in sitcoms like The Lucy Show 1962 to 1968, and Here's Lucy 1968 to 1973. Both shows had some success, but they couldn't match the magic of her earlier work with Desi Arnaz. Ball's impact on comedy and TV was still unmatched. In 1971, she was the first woman to win the International Radio and Television Society's gold medal. During her career, she won 4 Emmys, was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame, and received awards from the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. By 1985, her legacy as a television trailblazer was undeniable. That same year, Ball tried her hand at drama with Stone Pillow A. She played a homeless woman in a made-for-TV movie that wasn't a big hit, but reviewers praised her performance and pointed out how versatile she was. Fans, on the other hand, wanted her back in comedic roles, so Ball started a new sitcom called Life with Lucy in 1986. The impressive amount of $2.3 million paycheck for the series, but it didn't connect with viewers and was canceled after only 8 episodes. Despite this setback, Ball's contributions to entertainment will live on forever, and her son Desi Arnaz Jr. had to deal with the stress of living with famous parents. He wasn't just a kid, he was a teenager. Desi Jr. was Lucy and Desi's son, which came with a lot of expectations. His life was shaped by their fame, leaving him little room to make his own identity. Behind the scenes, life for the Arnaz family wasn't perfect. While America loved the funny world of I Love Lucy, things were far from perfect at home. Desi Jr. often watched from the sidelines as his parents' careers took off. On-screen happiness was often replaced by tension, arguments, misunderstandings, and the pressure to keep up a good public image. He learned to smile, even when he felt sad, because every red carpet event and public appearance added to the weight on his shoulders. From a young age, Desi Jr. knew that millions of people were looking to him to carry on the legacy of I Love Lucy. It wasn't just fame, it was a torch passed down from two. Behind that perfect smile, he had a question: could he ever live up to the huge expectations that were placed on him? The pride that came with his family's success came with an equally crushing weight. It wasn't just about living in the shadow of fame, it was about becoming a reflection of his parents' successes. But how do you do that? When everyone insists on calling you their son, you have to make your own identity. As he got older, the pressure became too much to handle, and he started to rebel, looking for independence outside of the perfectly curated life of Hollywood royalty. The bright lights that used to seem magical were now overwhelming, trapping him in constant comparisons and making him feel like he couldn't reach them. The hardest part was being alone. Even though there were fancy parties and adoring fans, not many people could see how hard it was for a boy who just wanted to be himself. He didn't want to be little Ricky or Desi Jr., he just wanted to be Desi. Behind the fame, he wanted a normal life where he wasn't a symbol of his parents' success. This need to find his own identity would shape his path. The constant pressure wasn't just making him famous, it was shaping him into a man. Lucille Ball, the famous comedian and actress, would deal with addiction, heartbreak, and the never-ending search for who he really was. His childhood was a warm-up for the problems he would face as an adult. The scars that fame left behind were invisible to the cameras, but they were deep. As hard as his life had been, the most shocking parts of his story were still to come. Ball died on April 26, 1989. Her death marked the end of a golden era in entertainment. She was more than just a performer, she was a trailblazer who changed the face of comedy and TV. When word got out of her death, fans and coworkers were deeply saddened. Tributes came in from all over the entertainment industry, many of them talking about how she could bring joy while breaking barriers for women in entertainment. She had touched millions of people through her work and her life. Lucille Ball died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles after battling an aortic dissection, which is a severe tear in the body's main artery. She was 77 years old. Fans around the world were shocked by the news and mourned the loss of one of TV's brightest stars. A colleague remembered that she made people laugh more than cry. We loved her very much, and her death will be deeply felt. Her loss had an effect far beyond Hollywood. Her career was unmatched, and she won many awards and honors. But her legacy wasn't just about her work, it also included her personal life, especially her complicated but passionate marriage to Desiree, which captivated the public. As one of Hollywood's most famous and closely watched couples, Lucille Ball's love story, full of ups and downs, added depth to her larger-than-life persona. Even when she wasn't around, Lucille Ball's influence was clear. She was more than a star, she was an icon, whose legacy would continue to inspire people for years to come. There were retrospectives on TV networks honoring her groundbreaking career, and magazines and newspapers wrote about her huge contributions to comedy. TV fans reminisced about unforgettable moments like Lucy Ricardo's crazy schemes, the hilarious Vital scene, and her heartfelt connection with Ricky. Ball's funeral took place at. Close family and friends attended the private ceremony at Forest Lawn Hollywood Hills Cemetery. The entertainment industry mourned the loss of a pioneer who had changed the face of comedy and TV. Lucille Ball's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame became a shrine for mourning fans, who left flowers and heartfelt messages to honor the woman who had made so many people laugh. In the years after her death, her influence was still felt. Her achievements, especially on I Love Lucy, and her contributions to comedy and the advancement of women in entertainment were praised as important parts of her lasting legacy. Lucille Ball's death marked the end of a legendary life, but her humor, talent, and willingness to break new ground ensured she would never be forgotten. Her timeless work continues to bring joy, solidifying her place as one of entertainment's biggest icons.